How many people you have online? It's like a couple.
Oh, it's quite a few. Wow.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a couple more people popping into Zoom here, and but yeah, for now,
Participants.
Yeah, 15.
15. Okay.
we'll go ahead and get started here. And if there are any visitors in the Lone Tree room, or do we have just members in there?
I'm brand new member. Okay.
All right.
I've attended twice before. Okay. Visitors. The first day I stepped in the door. Oh, okay. So I guess, Carl, you have a new member.
Yes, Dirk.
Yes.
Dirk just recently joined. He attended a couple meetings as a guest, and I guess was impressed with us because he joined shortly after. Welcome, Dirk. We're glad to have you as part of the gang here.
Thank you very much.
And I'm looking on Zoom here, and I don't see any of our guests. But hello to everybody who joined us. Ben, Ken, Dan, and all the rest of the gang here. All right, well, if everyone is ready to go, then I suppose we should start this show. So this evening is our April competition. The competition this month is Rule of Odds. So we were looking for images with an odd number of subjects or interacting elements. We did limit it to not a single subject. It had to be at least 3 or more. So you'll see groups of 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. Our judge this evening is Greg Holden, and Greg's judged for us a couple times before. And for those of you sitting in the room, you have the privilege of interacting with him.
My little.
And so just a little bit about Greg. He is a photographer from Longmont, Colorado. Thanks for making the drive down to see us.
Yes.
Who uses his photography to share with others how he sees the world. He enjoys creative photos of little scenes, often overlooked by others, rather than postcard landscapes. Although he won't pass by a chance to photograph a beautiful landscape or a tranquil sunset, he'd rather be exploring abandoned places and capturing the details of the layers of paint and rust on a discarded automobile. Greg enjoys searching used bookstores for photo collections and has over 170. Of course, that was last year's number. I'm sure it's increased by now.
Yeah. My wife says no more bookcases. I think I'm approaching 200.
Wow. So he has a very large library of photography books. He finds inspiration from master photographers in a wide range of subjects, such as close-up beach studies by Minor White, the early portraiture of Steichen and Stiglitz, and street scenes by Andre Cortez. He enjoys teaching others and sharing his passion for photography, and speaks at camera clubs near his home in the greater Denver area, but also speaks and judges virtually to clubs across the U.S. If you'd like to, you can see Greg's work on his website at imagesunderfoot.com. It's all one word.
Yep.
So, Greg, is there anything that you'd like to share with us? Anything to add to that?
No, just I did preview the images, and so my goal here, I mean, I know you have a scoring system, and I'll definitely use that.
Right.
My goal here is educate, and so I try to do a lot of talking and give you a lot of constructive criticism and critique. That's my focus, to educate. And if you have additional questions, feel free to catch me afterwards. For those people in the room, we can surely talk more about any of the images. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Good. All right. Well, that's what we're looking for here, a judge who has the heart of a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So we will, I will be showing the images. I will announce the title, and then Greg will go for your remarks and your score on them, and we'll process through the 39 images that we have this evening. And periodically, we will stop and take a look at the 9s and 10s to get the commentary from the image maker and learn a little bit more about that image. I would ask that everybody on Zoom please mute if you haven't already. And our first lovely image is called Calibration. We always show this just because, what you're seeing on the screen is going to be a little bit off, perhaps. We do have problems with Zoom crushing images sometimes, and the
It's pretty
TV,
close.
the TV might be off just a touch. But just so you can get a visual of what correct colors would look like.
Mhm.
And our first image then is man on.
All right, so this one, so I'm going to first talk about the topic, the rule of odds, and then I'll get into some other specifics. So I see what the maker's trying to do here with the three people and being your rule of odds. I found the person in the background really distracting, right? He's not in a very energetic pose because clearly he's not part of the action that's there in the foreground. And I suspect the maker was wanting to include that person because then I have three people, then I've met the criteria. But I think your soccer ball can count as one of the three elements. And actually it forms a really nice triangle if you kind of follow your eyes from the ball up to the gentleman about to kick it, his face, and then kind of over to the other man's face, the attacker coming in, and then diagonal back down. You create a nice little tight triangle there. And I think that's really your strong composition. So I think you could have taken a slight liberty with the rule of odds and count the soccer ball as one of the three elements and nix the person. Because the problem with the gentleman in the background, he's wearing a white jersey, right, of the opposing team. So that white captures my eye a lot more than the blue stripes gentleman, even though he's in the foreground extra sharp. My eye wants to go back to him. And then, he doesn't have a very exciting expression. And I don't want to go back to him. I want to stay where the action is. So anyway, just a thought there. So I think one of the ways you could have kept the action there on the three people, the two people on the ball, the three elements, is to allow a little bit more space at the bottom of the image. Right now, the grass, we're really close up on that ball and the shadow on the ball. I think if you left a little bit more space in the foreground, you could have cropped out that guy in the back, and we'll call those three things your elements. But as far as the sports shot, really good job freezing the action, capturing a great moment. I love the expression on the guy's face trying to hold on to the ball while this other attacker is coming in and you get caught him mid-stride. So really great job kind of freezing the moment and capturing a good moment. But that guy in the background, that really distracts me. So I'll give this one a 9. I think it has a lot of great things to it, but I think it could be even better if we cropped it slightly differently.
Rails in the rain.
This was really creative. I liked the white balance on this really turned out well. And I don't know if that's exactly what it looked like or you tweaked it a little bit in your processing, but I love that the light reflecting on those silver center posts is kind of a golden color. And then that mimics the goldish color of the cement steps. So all nicely balances. And then kind of taken at night. So we get this kind of blue tint to the railings, which I'm assuming are normally silver color. And then that mimics well with the silvers and the blues we're seeing in the background, as well as the yellows in the background. So very harmonious image. Rule of odds, I was trying to overthink it and count like how many pillars, how many railings. You have 3 railings, so I guess we'll call that the 3 there. But very clever image. The one thing I wish you'd just clone it out or something like that. In the upper left corner, there's that one like security light right above the door, kind of looking at me. That one bright light, I don't know why it irks me so much. But if you could just like clone that out, I think that would be really awesome. But I like your composition. It's kind of tight in, but I think that works for this particular image with the graphic nature. However, the one technical flaw is it is a bit noisy, a little grainy. And if you look at it up on the screen, especially in the shadows of like the blue railing, you can start to see some noise there. So I don't know if it was a high ISO. Well, I guess it had to be a high ISO. So see if you can clean up some of that noise in post-processing, just make it look a little sharper and a little cleaner. But overall, I like the image and I gave this an 8.
Crow leaving the palms.
So this one's interesting because I just got done talking about the soccer players with the 2 soccer players in the ball, and the ball makes the third person. So here we have the 2 palm trees and the bird makes the third element. However, I don't feel the rule of odds as much in this image, just because the palm trees are so big and bright, and the bird is more in shadow versus the soccer ball we saw before. It was well lit and it's bright white and kind of balanced with the two players. In this case, the bird, it's just not harmonious to the rest of it. And I guess I'm not a bird person, and maybe this bird loves palm trees, and that's the type of, he's a palm tree bird and or something like that. That's his name. So to me, I don't see a connection between that kind of hawk-like type bird and the palm trees. You know, I expect palm trees to have a monkey or something. I don't know. So that's kind of, I'm finding a lack of kind of unity, at least for me. It's just not making a little sense. I love the clouds in the background. I think that balances well with the trees. I think your overall framing is pretty good. I think I would have waited for a little bit different type of day, maybe when the light's a little higher, so we can get more light on the top of those palms, so it backlights them a bit. It would really make those leaves really pop out, the palm fronds there, because right now we have side lighting, so we have a lot of shadow. And so it just, there's a few things here that just didn't quite work for me, so I give this one a 7. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, this is Icelandic horses.
Yeah, so here's a good case with the backlight. It's interesting, it comes right after the palm image. So this is a great example of using that backlight to get kind of a little rim light on the horses, and you get some light coming through the longer hairs of their manes. And that just looks really, really pleasing. You know, normally photographers will say you don't want strong light like this, it casts these dark shadows, but it works in this case, I think, because we had that wonderful brightness to their hair of their manes, and then we could kind of long shadows mimic the long spindly legs that they have. So I think it balances well. I wish there was a smidge more room on the right side of the image, so the main horse there wasn't so crowded. So if you have a little bit more in the main file, if you give a little more space, I think that would just open it up a little bit more. Clearly three horses, so you meet the criteria. The sky is a little blown out, but good job, you know, including enough of it so I can see some of those rays and stuff coming in. We're actually getting a little bit clipped here in the room with the light or the zoom palette, but you'll see there's just a very lower edge, the sun. So I thought that was really good to include enough so I can see the bright light where that's coming from, but not too much because it's just going to be all blown out. But overall, nice image. I would probably bring up the contrast a little bit, just make it a little bit more punchy. When you get these backlight subjects, tends to wash out your subject sometimes. So just play with your contrast a little bit. It'll give a little bit more punch. But overall, it's a nice image. Give this one can I do 8.5? We'll lead forward. We'll give it a 9.
So this image is 3 amigas.
All right, so this is nice capture of these 3 kids here. Great smiles, really nice light on them, clearly meeting the criteria, the rule of odds. I like how they kind of all leaned in, so it really you can tell that they're really close friends. And so it's good. I spent a bit of time staring at this, trying to figure out, where are these kids? These do not look like Colorado kids, just based on some of the earrings and some of the T-shirts and some of that. So I'm guessing it's somewhere in Europe. But anyway, it's a nice portrait of the 3 kids, and I think you did a good job with the shallow depth of field, kind of soften out the background, because there's a lot going on in the background. It's kind of busy, but it's dark enough and blurred out enough it's not too distracting. And there's just such good light on the kids' faces that you're really captivated by their faces, and my eye doesn't wander too much. So yeah, this is a good snapshot, I guess, is what the word kept coming to my mind. I didn't really feel a artistic kind of creative snap to it. Just like, hey, look at these 3 cool kids. Let's snag a picture of them. So to me, it seemed a little more snapshotty. So I give it an 8, just because I'm lacking maybe some camera club worthy creativity. But great portrait. Hopefully you gave a copy to these kids or sent a copy if you knew who they were.
Bison family.
And we go from the 3 kids to the 3 bison. So here's another case where we have really strong light on these bison, and likely you're on some vacation or tour, and you're not going to be there at the optimal blue hour or something like that. So you're kind of dealing with the light that you're given, and so the light's a little strong. But in this case, I think it's actually a help, even though it's kind of glares off their horns a little bit and off the water. That strong light does allow the buffalo to be really well lit, so you can really appreciate their faces and their fur and different shades of brown. Had this been in a early morning or late evening when the light was really pleasing per the photography manuals, you'd have a lot of shadows to deal with on these bison, and you would not get to appreciate some of the detail and some of the really variations in their fur. So it actually worked well to be out in kind of more brighter morning light in this case. So the composition is good. I like how you left a little bit of room at the top, but not too much that I get distracted by the herd of the rest of the bison that are behind it. So good job with your cropping. The one problem with this one is it is a little soft. Here in the room, it doesn't look too bad, but I know when I was looking at my computer, it did look slightly out of focus. It's what I would call sharp enough to look good, to not look like a blurry image, but definitely not, an image like this where you're standing on the banks, they're staying relatively still. I would expect a lot more sharpness. So you just got to watch your shutter speed in these situations and just increase your ISO. Usually the higher is the better. And usually when I'm out doing animals, I try to hold at least a 500th of a second, even in bright light like this, just because the animals move around a little bit, you're quivering a little bit, there's wind blowing, whatever the case is, 500th of a second minimal. So raise your ISO or open up your aperture, whatever you need to do to get those faster shutter speeds. If you're doing birds, you want a thousandth of a second minimum, even for a slow moving bird, just because the slightest thing is very noticeable. But overall, nice image. So I give this one 8.
All screwed up.
So I like this one. Clever kind of scene. I like doing these kind of industrial shots where it's just a bunch of bolts on some big nuts or big fasteners. But it's interesting. So yeah, definitely meet the rule of thirds or the rule of odds. For this one, a couple things could make it better. One, I think the black and white processing could be a little bit, expand your range a little bit. I do a presentation on black and white photography. Having back sometime, we can talk more about it. But typically in black and white photography, there's no rule, but a lot of times you want parts of your image that are jet black, and we see those kind of down the corners. And then you want parts that are really bright white. And you really want to use your whole histogram level. And this one, the whites seem a little dull. I would expect those whites around the bolts to really punch. I think if those were brighter, it would really make those bolts just pop out of the page with that contrast. So maybe try playing with your contrast or increasing your whites a little bit. And then another thing with this type of image, this thing isn't moving, I'm assuming, and you probably have an option for a tripod wherever you are. So this is a case where you just need to nail the sharpness. So you went with a really shallow depth of field, like maybe it's a f5.6 or something, maybe f8, but probably 5.6 or closer to that. So that the bolt in the front is nice and sharp, but the ones in the back start to fade a little bit and they're not as sharp. So I don't think you don't have much in the background with that white corner piece. So you can afford to use an f8 or f11 to give you still focus where you did on that front bolt, but allow that tighter aperture to get you a little bit more depth of field. I'd probably also crop in a little bit more on this. I see the photographer allowed where the triangle comes down and get the little edges there. I don't think that's necessary in this case. I think that the story is all about the bolts. I don't need some of that other stuff. So I would come in just a little tighter, nixed off those edges so the the white just goes right to the edge, and I don't see a little black strip on the right side because it's not mimicked on the left side. And then I debate whether you need the black edge along the bottom or you just cut through the middle of that white. So I think you can play around the composition a little bit and the processing a little bit with this one and make it a bit stronger. Give this one a 7.
5 cranes in silhouette.
Yeah, so interesting image here. Don't know if this was as seen, more likely Photoshop and added together. But very clever. I like the arrangement. I like how each bird is unique in its wing position and head positions about similar, but wing position different. The arrangement to me was that bird on the top. I kind of debated whether that bird on the top should be a little bit back a little bit, so we form a little bit more of a kind of an arrow kind of point, or maybe you just need to be a little higher in the frame. I just feel like you have room to play with when you're making this kind of image. And I would, assuming you're photoshopping these birds in place, I would have put that bird up just a little higher, give it a little bit more space. I think it would just balance out things a little bit better. But overall, very creative image, this very kind of graphic black and white. Give this one a 9.
Grab a clamp.
All right, great texture on this one. Like just there's all kinds of lines and curves here. So a lot to really kind of look at. To me, it's a little muddled in that all the clamps and then the vise there on the bottom, it all starts to blend together a little bit because it's all kind of about the same shades of gray. So I think this one, I'm judging by the processing that is done, that this was more of an experienced person. So I'd say that I think it needs just a tad more processing. Maybe that vise clamp on the bottom, darken it up a little bit. So just the C clamps on top pop out a little bit more, because right now it's all kind of muddles together a little bit too much for me. But it's got great texture, great detail. So really good on those aspects of the processing. And overall, nice black and white, but I think a little bit more dodgy and burning would just make it even better. I'll give this one a 9.
Thunderbirds.
Really nice capture here. These jets, and you see it especially on the computer, the detail on them is really, really sharp. They really are punchy, really sharp detail, and that looks really nice. I like how you captured the planes, all this interesting formation where the 3 in the center, all wings are in slightly different orientations. So I think that was a good choice. I love how punchy those and crisp looking those jets are. I only wish the white plume behind them was equally as punchy. So I think the white on those the trails coming from the jets, you need to amp up that white on that so it just really jumps out. The jets are already jumping out at me, but let's let the white jump out at me too, so it doesn't kind of blur into the gray background. And I think that would just make it more uniform, because right now the jets seem like it's not uniform enough for me. So I think that would help just balance everything out. But overall, really nice. Give this one a 9.
Succulent.
Really great detail on this one too. I think this is a smart choice, going right down on top of them so we can really appreciate all the detail in these plants. It's interesting, the inclusion of the little water line there kind of adds another graphic element with the kind of straight line to the circles. I don't think you need to include as much of it as you did. I'd maybe come in a little bit from the right and a little bit down from the top. Keep the focus on the 3 plants, and then just a little bit of that line for an interesting element. So I think you can go a little tighter on this, then I can appreciate the detail of these plants even more so, because I don't think we need like that black spot in the lower left corner. I think that starts to get distracting, gets a little cluttered. So I come in a little tighter, but overall, this one's really, really nice. I give this one a 5 or 10.
Thanks for clarifying. I was going to ask about that. Now, this would be Benches Wash Park.
So really creative idea of a rule of 3 here to find these 3 benches and use that for this topic. What I like about this image and I don't know if this is intentional or not, but you also have three main trees in the background too. There's some smaller trees and stuff like that, but the three biggest trunks I see in the background kind of mimic the three benches. They're kind of similar pattern grouped together. So I don't know if that was intended or not, but I think that's a nice addition to this image. I like your vantage point up kind of high. So it keeps the focus on the benches, but then my eye has a little bit of breathing room to go around the rest of the image. I don't think we need quite as much of the background where the cars and the rest of the houses are. I'd come down and take a little bit of that out. Maybe it'd come halfway down through the houses back there. I don't think you want to take out all that, because then you lose the three trees, which, like I said, mimics the three benches. But consider maybe taking a little bit off the top. But otherwise, this is a nice image, nice soft light on it. I give this one an 8.
Back to nature.
So this is like the three people and really nice black and white here. So this is a good example where we're seeing some nice jet blacks, but also some nice pure whites, and then a lot of shades of gray in between. Yeah, trying to figure out exactly what kind of springs or sulfur geyser thing this is going on here, but very interesting. I like the composition where we have the people are kind of silhouetted against the white steam there, and then we have some negative space on the left with all the dark areas. So I think the balance of this image is really, really good. This is a great example of the people they're not in the middle, they're not on a rule of thirds line, they're on their own thing. And so this is kind of an alternate composition choice, but it works really well for this image. So I really like this one. I give this one a 10.
The indecisive maze moment.
So this one, when I first looked at it, my eye immediately goes to the two girls down there, the lights right on their faces. So wait a minute, there's a pair of them. Where's the third one? And I thought this was supposed to be rule of odds. And then I looked up and I see the three pumpkins faces. So we got 3 up there. And if you add the girls, then it's 5. So it meets the criteria, but I will say that the focus is really the pair of girls. So even though you have the 3 in the background, we'll call it compliant, but it's definitely the subject is not an odd number. But nice lighting on it. I don't know if that was just kind of how you saw them or you kind of enhanced that in post-processing. But nice black and white treatment on this one. I'm kind of left guessing a little bit on this one, because the girls are, the one's kind of looking at you, sort of, kind of pondering, and then the other one's looking up the side with a slight smirk, so you're not exactly sure exactly what's going on, and that can be good and that can be bad, depending on how you interpret the mystery there. But they're not scared by the pumpkins that look like they have like fangs or something on them. But anyway, nice image overall. I'll give this one 9.
And this is Lazy Days, and after this one, Bob, we can cut to the 9s and 10s and talk to the people who made the photos.
So this one, kind of a clever idea. I like the composition overall, with the paddle boards here, and you kind of follow the fin line, and then the fin line transitions to the kind of rocks on the beach, and then it kind of follows it right into the image. Good job controlling the exposure on the clouds in there. I struggled a little bit with this one on kind of rule of odds. And if you count the surfboards or if you count the fins, yes, it's an odd number. But if the way they're kind of grouped, I count the one gray board in front, a white board, and then 2 clusters of gray. So it kind of, to me, felt more like 4 than the 9 or 11 boards that are there. Maybe that's just me overanalyzing it. But I think it's the 2 boards up front are so sharp and so distinct because they're spacing with your angle, or maybe just how the boards are. The ones in the back just started to mesh together, and I wish they were separated out a little bit more. And it's probably not your board, so you can't go separating them all out. But maybe might try a slightly different vantage point, might create a little bit more separation, and then we could kind of appreciate that repeating pattern a little bit more. But overall, nice composition, a lot of nice elements on this one. Give this one an 8.
Okay, and Kyle, let's make sure that the room mic is active here because a couple of people are in the room that we'll be talking to. Like our first person, Cecilia, for Man On.
Okay, thank you so much for the comments and for the feedback on that. This was taken at a soccer field at Lowry, where the old Lowry Air Force Base was. And I really appreciate the comments on the role of odds because I was struggling with that, and my original crop did crop the gentleman on the right out.
Okay.
And then I was like, does the ball count? So that's why I ended up including the gentleman. And then when I submitted my photo, which was really late on Saturday, almost midnight, I was like, oh man, I don't know if it's gonna count, but yeah, so thank you again for the feedback.
You're welcome.
Great photos.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it would work either way. You know, and you're not alone with second guessing as to, well, did I do it right or should I change that? Or it happens to everybody. So
Yeah.
you're in good company. Our next one was Icelandic Horses from Joy Lindholm. Is Joy in the room there? I don't see her on Zoom.
Not here.
No.
Okay. So, and she didn't leave any notes about this. So obviously this was perhaps Iceland due to the fact of the title.
Yeah,
Icelandic
they're very
Horses.
photogenic, the ponies
Yep.
there.
Exactly.
It's on my list to get there.
Yeah, on a number of people's list, I'm sure. Five Cranes in Silhouette is from David Besson. This was sandhill cranes taken on an overcast day in Monte Vista, Colorado. And I assume that's Todd, that was the trip that you and David and a few other people took?
Yes, there was 4 or 5 of us there, and David had sent me a couple of options to consider. What I do know is that they were not arranged in any
Oh,
way.
Okay.
They may have been cropped from a group of 50, but he had sent me some of 3, and I hadn't seen this exact one before, but I'd be virtually certain that it's as he saw it.
Oh, well, great to have such separation between the birds,
Yeah.
naturally.
Well, that's because David had a good teacher. Todd led the group of people from our club earlier this year down to Monte Vista, and they had a great time on a good photo shoot.
Indeed.
Grab a Clamp is from Mark Rockkind.
Well, I have a shop that is usually in disarray, and struck me that there's actually a lot of good-looking stuff if you focus in. I did arrange these though, and so the comment that the arrangement could have been better is a good comment because I had the ability to make the arrangement better. But I took the camera and the tripod into the shop and some lighting and tried to come up with something for this month. So, but this is not done. My shop's kind of like this all the time.
Which I think is semi-typical of a lot of shops,
Yeah.
especially home shops. That's a nice image, though. Thunderbirds is from Ron Schaller.
Yes, this was taken Luke Air Force Base in March. That's down in Phoenix, and first time I went to an air show, and I loved it. It was just a great time, and I had a number of pictures that were just blank skies. It's hard to track these planes sometimes, but the sky was kind of constantly changing. A little bit of rain here and there, and you get some sun. But I appreciate your comment about the trails, and I'll try to amp those up a little bit and see how it looks. So, thank you very much.
Nice shot, Ron.
Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, that is a nice shot, Ron.
Thank you. It's appreciated.
Succulent is from Terry Hanford.
Hi, this was a shot I took with an iPhone. I considered using it for the last competition, then I decided on some other pictures. But I was amazed at how much detail it had. It was taken in Barcelona at hotel that had seen better days, and the garden was sort of in disarray, but I really liked the succulents. I did trim off the line. It actually went left to right, and so I trimmed it off there so it didn't lead out of the screen so much. But I did like it sort of coming down and adding another element, as Greg was noting. Thanks for the comments.
Yeah, great for a smartphone shot.
Back to nature. This is from Oz Fenninger.
Yeah, took this in the Atacama Desert in Chile. And this is a place called the Geysers. It's actually up at over 14,000 feet. And our tour guide actually got altitude sickness, unfortunately. So I did some cropping here, cropped quite a bit, well, some off the top. I thought it was a little distracting, showed some background, and I converted the color picture to black and white. Used I think a 70 to 300 millimeter lens, and just like the arrangement of the three people and the spray of the erupting geyser, and it's just a nice mood. So that's about it.
Gorgeous, very nice.
It's another great image from you, Oz. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the indecisive maze moment is from Steve Wilton.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. This was taken in Longmont at the Rocky Mountain Pumpkin Ranch on the Ute Highway.
Oh yeah.
And, the kid on the right, it was a boy. What attracted me to it was this indecision that he's really contemplating how to get out of the maze, and I wanted to capture that. This is in color. It's incredibly vivid in color because the pumpkins are orange. Their background is blue. You got complementary colors, and the kids' shirts are orange. But I put it into color because it just was too distracting away from the face of the boy making a decision there.
I thought it was a boy from the face structure, but I saw the long hair, and then the way just a little bit of his left earlobe is showing.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like an earring. So then I saw long hair and earring and said, well, it's a girl.
Yeah, his dad cut his hair on the right side. It's short, and on the long side, he just kept it growing on the other side.
Yeah, my son used to have a haircut like that when he was that age.
Yeah. Thank you.
Interesting. All right. Well, thank you, Steve. Back to the same old place, Sweet Home.
Yeah, so the title of this one, I usually don't take a lot of stock in the titles, unless it maybe tells me a little something more about the image that I wouldn't know just by looking at it. I was a little perplexed by this, and I guess this family, it's probably your family, and you're probably going back to whatever city this is. And so it makes sense to you, but to me, as a viewer, I don't know that that's their home city, and I don't get a sense of home. I get a sense of tourists, right? They're at their cameras, they're doing a landscape shot. So a little confused. I'm not sure the title necessarily adds to my appreciation of the image or not. Overall, it's a nice black and white. The silvers and the buildings all just really pop out. It's a really great job with all the detail there and the processing. I like the arrangement with this kind of leading line coming in from the lower right, right to the family, and then the family is looking up at the building. So then my eye immediately juts and follows that curve right up to the buildings. It's a really good job on your composition here and the processing on this one. The title, like I said, distracts me a little bit because I'm just trying to figure out what's going on there. But overall, it's a really great picture. So I'll give this one a 10.
Along the Boardwalk.
So interesting with this one, we got the rule of odds with the 3 posts. It's really 3 pairs of posts, and then the lone bird. The lighting on these posts is showing the barnacles and stuff like that is really nice, really soft light early in the day or something. Unfortunately, that bird is just a little too far back, so we can't appreciate any good light on the bird. He's kind of in shadow. We get a nice reflection though of him, so that is a nice element. So I only wish that bird's a little brighter. I think this is a case where you can go artificially add a little light to the bird. It wouldn't look out of place, and I just think it would balance it out better as far as the tones of the brights and darks of the browns. I like your choice of including just a little bit of the mud there on the foreground. I think that's good. It creates a nice little anchor to the image. You could do without it, but I think to me, it's a nice addition. So this one's nice. I just wish there was a little bit more light on the bird, because the bird is what I want to appreciate, not the stumps of pilings, although I like them. I'd rather appreciate the bird. So we'll give this one, we'll say 8 on this one.
Don't stare at the humans.
Really nice grouping here of the bears, and we see kind of the 2 juvenile ones on the right, and then mom there are watching. So I thought the title worked well with this one, like stop gawking at the tourists and move along. So really, really great composition. Really nice light on this one. I like this little bit of kind of backlight on them. So we get that little rim light on their backs. So that really looks nice, frames them out really nicely against the blank sky. I love also that you included as much rocks as you did, kind of using a rule of thirds composition here. We got like 1/3 rock beach and then 2/3 the rest of the photo. I think that's really good. I think you could have cropped in tighter, made it more of a even more of a pano, and that would work fine too. I like rocks though, so I'd say adding the rocks and showing kind of a little bit more of their environment just really adds to the photo. You already have a great wildlife shot with the great placement and looks on their faces and everything, but to add that sense of place, I think is a really, really nice addition to this one. So just lots of great things going on with this image, and I'll give this one a 10.
5 half-buried Cadillacs.
So this one kind of talk about sense of place. So I think this is kind of nice where you included so much foreground in this one. It does take away from the main star of the show, the cars, but they're so vibrant and colorful that they jump out at you. You can still figure out what they are and still appreciate them. But having that huge field in front of them, I think is nice. Really shows the sense of place that they're out in this large field. So it looks even more kind of strange why someone would do that. But for sake of art, I suppose. But yeah, the colors just really pop on this one. So this is a case where punching up the colors a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more saturated than probably what's natural looking, works for this image, more of a pop art type image. And then having that fog in the background so we can just keep our eyes focused on the cars and the grass, I think works well. Give this one a 9.
Oops, sorry, I was muted there. Red hot chilies.
Really nice on this one. So here, yet again, another case where we have really, really strong light, and all the photography books tell you don't take photos at 10 o'clock in the morning or something whenever this was taken. But it works really well for this one. When you go to places that have these chilies like New Mexico or somewhere in Central America, you expect kind of these warm colors, these warm tones. So I expect a brighter image. So the bright light on this works really well. And then we get these great shadows of the chilies behind the chilies. In most cases, they're separated out enough that we have some good spacing there. So I think that works really well in this image. It's kind of a typical composition, kind of squared up and everything, but it's just got a lot of character to it, and the color's really nice. Give this one a 9.
High and tight over Monte Vista, Colorado.
All right, so again, good arrangement of the birds, having them all in different wing positions, and good spacing between them. So given the other one, I'm assuming this is how they were naturally flying. They weren't assembled this way. But really nice how they're kind of against the blue part of the sky, and then we kind of have white surround around them with a little bit of clouds, so it frames them out a little bit. So it's got a lot of those nice elements to it, but I'm still looking at the back of the birds, and I'm still looking at their heads away from me. The light is not on their faces, it's on their hindquarters and their wing tips. Birds don't always have to be flying towards you, but I think in this case I would have positioned myself slightly differently so the light was a little bit more on them so we can really appreciate how interesting looking these birds are. I mean, they're framed out nice against a blank sky, and so that does allow you to appreciate the shapes, but I think lighting on this one for such a kind of quote unquote simple photo, really got to nail the technical aspects. So I give this one an 8.
Follow me.
Nice arrangement here, the mom and the 2 little chicks. Not quite sure what the little yellow leaf or whatever is on the ground. If it was me, I'd clone that out. I think that's a little distracting, but kind of minor. But I like how you caught them kind of in this marching mode with the mom's foot's up. We even see a little motion there. And then you've gone in tight, so it's just framed out by these interesting kind of blue squares they're walking on. Not their natural environment, clearly, walking across some man-made thing. So nice capture. It's not as sharp as I would like. The mom's head is pretty sharp. You start to lose a little bit of sharpness in the ducklings. So I think it's just a little faster shutter speed. And we know it's a slower shutter speed because the mom's rear foot, we got a little bit of blur, motion blur to it. So I think I'd get a little sharper on this. And this is another one where I just brighten it up a little bit. This is probably natural color. They're probably in semi-shade. But if it's all about these 3 ducks, you can brighten it up a little bit. It could be a little bit brighter than what you actually saw in real life. We're not working for Audubon Society. So I'd process it just a little differently. But overall, nice capture, nice framing. I'll give it an 8.
The pains, the pains, the pains.
Another one with the good color and the nice light on the strong light on this really makes the yellow part of those panes really pop out. So that's really nice. I'm questioning why you chose to shoot at such an obscure angle and not just kind of straight on, make it a very geometric shape. I'm not sure that harsh angle on the left from the left adds to it or not. So I don't know. I'd probably shoot it straight on. The red of the door looks really nice. It's a nice contrast to all the other colors we're seeing, but the red on the bricks looks really artificial. And I don't know if that's just how your camera captured it or you intentionally tried to punch that up, but that violet, lavender purple is really, really nice, a nice pleasing color. And so to have that contrasted by the really, really bright radioactive red is a little jarring to me. I would have rather see them all radioactive color or all pleasing Easter colors. So I might try to tone down your red channel a little bit. We'll give this one an 8.
Vegas compare their shadows.
I love this one for the theme, the rule of odds. We got the 5 posts coming out there. Then we have only 3 shadows on the wall of the garage door, and then even the building number is 0, 1, 0. So I don't count it. And yes, technically it's 10, an even number, but I see the 1 and say that's an odd number. So I like that you really worked the theme really well on this one. So nice framing and composition on this one. This one I call what I call muddled for black and white. It's just not punchy enough. I think you need to kind of darken your shadows a little bit, bring up your whites a little bit more. So just a little bit more kind of sharp and punchy. It seems like it was a nice color image and you pushed the monochrome conversion in Lightroom and this is the grayscale image it gave you. And so I think just a little bit more work on your black and white conversion would just really make this image stand out a lot more. But we'll give it an 8.
Five drummers drumming.
So this one, very punchy, right? Very jet blacks here. Like the contrast, they really jump out. I wish that the drummers there in the front, that their feet weren't cut off so much. I don't need to see as much as the building as you included. So I wish your camera angle had tilted down just a little bit so we include their feet and a little less of the building. We see enough behind them to get a sense of place. But nice idea for the topic with the 5 drummers here. They're in a little bit of shadow, which there's a little bit more light, but you're off of these parades. These people aren't posing for you, so you're doing what you can. But overall, good job with the exposure. Whites aren't blown out. It's really hard images like this where these jet blacks and these bright whites. Your camera gets all confused sometimes. So good job with the exposure. But yeah, nice image overall. Just wish the crop didn't lob off the legs. So we'll give it a 9. I do like the subject matter.
The cost of living.
This is by far the most clever, creative of all the images of the night. I really like the concept here, and I guess it was layered images or something like that. And then the title also really kind of goes with it. I really get a sense of what you're trying to get across with all the pills. I too know the older I get, the more pill bottles that seem to collect on my vanity. So I know all about it. The only thing for me is with the rule of odds, yes, we have odd number of tablets there. The 4 fingers really jump out at me because there's good lighting on them. And I wish that thumb was a little bit more included in the frame so we keep with those odd numbers. And then if you're manufacturing an image like this, I would have had the hand slightly bent, fingers bent inward, like they're gripping the pills. The hand looks very flat and just doesn't seem natural, like you wouldn't carry your pills with your hands super flat. You'd have them more gripping. It would also create maybe a little more tension in the fingers. I think that would add to your story that you're trying to get across. But interesting processing, interesting composition on this one. I think you could work it and make it just even more impactful. So we're gonna give it a 9.4. I don't know, a 9, I guess. But really clever, really clever.
Harlequin ducks cooling.
Nice composition on this one. These ducks, I can't believe that's comfortable with the 2 ducks in the foreground on a strong angle, like they're going to just slide back into the pond there. So I like what this could have been, this image, with the ducks, a good placement. I like their colors against the rock, and I love how you included the bit of rock on the right, so we get some pops of color over there to kind of help balance everything out. This is a case where the light's a little strong, but I think in this case it does help illuminate their shadows, illuminate their feathers, and which is really nice. This is a case though where you need to use a polarizing filter. It would cut down a lot of the glare on the rock face as well as the water. So if you're a regular nature photographer, that is the one piece of equipment along with your camera to invest in, is a good circular polarizer, because it'll just cut down that glare and just make the colors really nice. So that's one thing is missing here on this image. But great composition. Love all the elements you've assembled here, but just the technical is a little bit off. So we'll give this an 8.
Little to the left, now lower. Okay, good.
This one's kind of interesting because with these 2 gentlemen on the left, they're such divided from the 3 mannequins because whatever billboard or sign they're putting up the window, it's not transparent. So we're not seeing any light there. So it's almost like those 2 images stitched together. I know that's not what it is. But I love the what you've captured here. You get the 3 mannequins, very stiff and very rigid, very vertical. And then the gentlemen on the left are all triangles, right? We got the gentleman in the foreground. His legs are kind of forming a triangle, mimics the ladder behind him. And then we got the hands forming different angles and their bodies. So really great seeing this, seeing the angles versus the strong verticals on the right. So it's really a nice kind of, my eye kind of bounces back and forth between the 2 different sides of the image. And really great job on your black and white conversion here too, where we've got these strong whites, not blown out though, and we've still got enough shadow detail to appreciate the gentleman and what's going on the left side. So just really good all around on this one. Give it a 10.
Aunties or aunties, depending on where you're from, and youth leaving the water hole.
Yeah, a nice arrangement of this one. I wish you could have waited maybe a few more seconds for the elephant there on the left to move just a little bit so we get a little bit more spacing between that elephant and the feet of the one above it. But again, you're out in nature and these things aren't posing for you, so you're kind of working with what you got. But just something to keep in mind if you have another frame right after it, look for a little bit more spacing. Yeah, another example tonight of you guys should do a competition on strong lighting because I think your photographers, you got a lot of photographers with that expertise. So another case where the strong light in this case works well. We get some nice kind of adds another kind of color dimension to these elephants. They're all kind of one shade of gray, but then we got that strong highlight on their hinds, and then we got the strong shadows underneath, and then of course the mud, dried mud. So we get a lot of different shades of gray on them. So what is a very kind of monochrome looking animal takes on a new dimension with this stronger light. So another great example of being out in not ideal lighting can still lead to some really great images. So overall the range is really nice. I like how you included slightly wider so we get a little sense of place. We can see just enough of the watering hole in the upper left, but the grass is way far more interesting. So glad you included plenty of space there on the right and bottom. So I give this one, we'll give it a 10. We'll give it a 9.8. So we'll round it up.
Grab a wrench. And Bob, after this one, we'll go talk to the 9s and 10s that we've had since the last group. Thank you.
So, kind of interesting arrangement here. So a couple things that irked me was one, the main crescent wrench there. I wish it wasn't upside down. And I think if you flipped it over, then the numbering and stuff would be right side up. So I like, if it's that crisp and sharp, my eye just, maybe because I'm an engineer, I want to read the wrench and what metric it is. So having the numbers upside down is a little jarring to me. The other thing with this one is I don't get the assortment here, right? We have a crescent wrench, kind of multi-purpose wrench, and then we got the monkey wrench there, which is more for plumbing. Then we got the chain vise clamps, and then the PVC pipe. It just, to me, it doesn't all go together. Like when I do PVC pipes, maybe I use the plumber's wrench, but I'm not using a crescent wrench or a chain wrench. So the arrangement doesn't jive to me. It's not uniform because I don't expect to use a crescent wrench when I'm dealing with PVC piping. So I'm assuming you kind of arrange this, or maybe this is your workshop and this is what it looks like. But I think you got to think about those things, that even though the overall arrangement of the elements from a graphical sense is really nice, I'm not a fan of how the two items just don't go together. It's a little, I wish it was a little bit more contrasty, so we can kind of appreciate kind of like that first vise one we saw, the things would pop out at you. And then I might look at arranging the wrenches slightly different. The main crescent wrench goes corner to corner, and then the monkey wrench is going basically corner to corner. So you're kind of you're dividing it up into pure triangles or diamonds. So I think you could have changed the angles slightly so we had a little bit more dynamic image with their assortment. So I think there's a couple more things you could do differently with this one. So I think it's a 7.
So back to the same old place, Sweet Home, which happens to be Chicago this time. This is from Ben Hernandez.
Yeah, my titles suck, apparently. But I do appreciate the 10, sincerely. When she's there, she's helping with the titles. Cliff, I appreciate you pointed them out. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like title like admiration or all or something, because like these small people and these big, massive, glorious skyscrapers of all different shapes and sizes. So to me, it's more of a wonder than oh, I'm home. It's so nice and cozy.
You're right. It's more like a Blues Brothers kind of Sweet Home Chicago kind of thing. So and I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be sending you some images. It's been crazy, but I get it. I really do understand. And Cliff, if you're listening, I didn't mean to be combative. I do know that I need to work on my talents. So thank you.
Great. Quick
No worries.
question.
No,
Yeah, coming in the room, hold on.
In the bottom right corner, is
Yeah.
that white thing? I would remove that. What's your?
Yeah, I'd clone that out too. It's kind of a minor thing. I mean, the lower right corner is kind of plain, so it adds another little element, but I could take it or leave it. I could clone it out, or you could say it kind of replicates the shadow around the family that's kind of the same, rectangular shape. So I can take it either way.
Fair enough, and thank you. And I sincerely do appreciate all the feedback from everyone, and I do mean it. Thank you.
no.
Good job.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you much. There's Don't Stare at the Humans. This is from Brian Donovan.
Yeah, I took this up at Hudson Bay, and I had to bring the background down a bit. It was very bright, and by bringing it down, it helped the bears stick out a little bit more. But thanks for the comments.
Yeah, I just went to Svalbard in the Arctic, north of Norway, and we did not see bears as close. So I know you go to Canada and Hudson Bay, they are a lot closer.
It's a great image, Brian. It's excellent. 5 half-buried Cadillacs is from Dan Greenberg.
Yeah, so this one, I was kind of at a loss of what I could use. So this is was a cropped piano. And this is a place called Cadillac Ranch. It's pretty famous. It's a Route 66 thing. It's just a little teeny bit west of Amarillo, Texas on I-40. I've been there a couple other times. And this time what made it special was if you normally go to this, it's like all the part that's green is just brown, dirt, dry,
Yes,
whatever.
that's how I've
And
seen
there's a zillion people spray painting the Cadillacs. And they really are that brightly colored that, people use all sorts of crazy colors on them and stuff. I did make it, I did boost the saturation a teeny bit to make them, stand out a little more in the fog. But it was raining. There's just tons and tons of rain. We ended up with about 8 pounds of mud on each foot coming back from this. And literally, and I'm glad you did like I didn't want it to be too piano, so that's why I left a lot of the grass, the foreground grass in. Plus, it's not even grass, that's some kind of a crop, because this is on a farm. And that they let people go in. And like I said, it was just one of those kind of things that I just thought, it was so lucky to be there on a rainy day. It was so much more different than all the other pictures of it I have. So thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you, Dan. Red Hot Chilies is from Susan Hafke. I didn't see Susan on Zoom. I assume she's not in the room.
No.
Okay. And I don't have any notes from her about it, so I'm not sure exactly where this was taken or when or anything. But still, it's I like the image too. I like the lighting on it, the contrast, the colors. It's really nice.
So Carl, they recently went down to Baja California, so I assume it's down there.
Okay. And Five Drummers Drumming is from Joy Lindholm. Again, I don't have any notes about this particular image either.
By the way, I do know Joy is traveling for a family emergency. So she texted me that she didn't think she'd make it. She was going to try to be on Zoom, but anyway, hope everything's okay. But she was traveling for, she said it was a funeral. So no fun.
Sorry to hear that. Yes, absolutely.
But by the way, this is her first time. It's just an interesting thing. This is her first time she's ever submitted.
Right.
She sent me a couple of pictures to review, and I'm also dealing with a family death in the family, and I'm out of state, and I didn't check my email for a couple of days. So those two images, meaning the horses, which she got a 9 on the 3 horses, and she got a 9 on this. I guess she's going to be mentoring me. Because
just a little bit, yeah.
Because I got an 8, and I'm not going to say which one. But it might have been in Monte Vista. So I quit.
Yeah.
Oh, Todd, you don't have to quit yet. No.
2 nines. First time in, she's got 2 nines.
I love it. That's what I love.
Awesome. I am gonna text her and tell her.
That'll be a good boost for her in a time of sadness.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, the cost of living. This is from Bob Bartlett.
I was kind of in a quandary on this one because I knew the bills is what I wanted to focus on, but I couldn't find a good backdrop. Finally, I grabbed my daughter's imprint from kindergarten and put the bills in there.
Oh, I thought it was a composite, like a Photoshop.
And the reason why I use that because it had like the striations and giving kind of aging feel. I deliberately kind of cropped in on thumb because it was so dark. I was afraid that darkness would be overshadowed by the other fingers, which are lit.
Yeah.
This is all available light.
Gotcha. Well, really nice if that's how you made it versus, see, the problem with me as a judge, right, I don't know how you made it, so I just assume, well, if it's made with Photoshop, it should be perfect because you have all the time in the world to make it perfect. So now knowing how you created it, I appreciate it even more. So great job. Very nice.
Right. And Bob, that was one image that you changed the title on too, as I remember. So
Yeah, I said a handful. I figured that doesn't say much.
Right. No, this is way better.
And
Way more impactful.
And my daughter came up with a title.
Way more impactful.
Cost of living, which really made sense.
Excellent. Very nice. This little to the left, now lower. Okay, good, is from Kyle Derlam.
Greg, really appreciate your comments, and I'm happy. I'm stunned that I got a 10 on it actually, but I'm really happy. I actually almost included a different image than this, but I liked my title so much that I wanted to keep it. So that's kind of dumb. But the only major thing I did, well, I will say that fellow member Ken Burns and I went out less than 2 weeks ago shooting together, and this is from that. That was a fun shoot that Ken and I had. I had that FR period logo, circle logo in there was stark white, and I spent a lot of time on that because it really overwhelmed the mannequins and took too much away. So anyway, I took probably several dozen different shots of these because I thought, man, it kind of dipped in to get like a drink or something somewhere. I got something going on here. I got to work it. So thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Nice. It's an excellent image, Kyle. That was very good. Aunties and Youth Leaving the Water Hole is from David Besson. And David said that over the Okavango Delta in Botswana, these 3 elephants were leaving the water hole after quenching their thirst. David took a trip to Botswana and shot what he says about 25,000 images.
About right.
So he has competition images for decades to come. Alrighty, we have roughly 10 images left. Is everybody okay with just powering on and getting through the rest of them instead of taking a break or anything?
Let's do it.
Good to me.
Okay. Alrighty. Mandarins on the Edge of Night.
Yeah, so this one, I guess I didn't get this one. I think that the creator really tried to be clever with this one. We had a lot of different elements going on. You know, looks like these mandarins were on a kitchen island or something like that, and then you've put in the sky in the background, and it's the eclipse, and we just had the eclipse, so I don't know if it's that eclipse or not. But no, I guess it would be because that was a solar eclipse, so this is a lunar eclipse. Or just maybe nighttime. I didn't really get the association between the sky and the crescent moon and the mandarin. So I didn't really understand what the maker is trying to do here. And then the title was kind of clever, but it didn't really tie me into why they chose this. So I guess I'm just left wondering, like I missed something. So I like the light on the orange. I think the harsh light on the oranges with the dark shadows is interesting because it does bring out the texture of them. Clearly the orange color really pops out, but just having the white line of the edge of that counter, seeing the shadow, seeing into the shadows underneath of it of the wood of paneling or whatever's in your cabinetry. I just thought that should be darker because that would then match the background, which is so dark, right? And so if you chose to make your background so dark and it takes up 60% of your real estate, then I make everything in the foreground dark too and make those oranges just like pop out of the screen like they're spotlighted or something like that. So just there's a lot of different things going on here that just it didn't quite add up to me. It's a sharp image, a decent job with photoshopping the different elements together, but I missed the mark somehow. So I'm gonna give this one a 7.
Dying eggs for Easter.
Yeah, this one, the title was good because it kind of clued me in because I wouldn't necessarily really understood what was going on here. I guess I don't dye my eggs in a bag, I do a bowl. So maybe other people do it that way. So that was actually helpful in this case. Your composition's nice, like with the drain here and the little colored water there spewing out of the bag. You can just see the 3 eggs through the bag. So we meet the criteria of the rule of odds. So it's an interesting image. It's definitely a little something different. I guess it didn't have quite the wow factor that maybe some of the other images we've seen tonight had. But overall, it's a competent image, so give it an 8.
Air traffic control.
Yeah, I thought the title for this one was clever with these carnival rides. Really punchy on this one. And I think that works for this particular type of image. Normally that kind of heavy processing can be kind of garish and over the top, but I think it works for this image because we have such detail here in the rides. Then we got the interesting background of the clouds there. It all just kind of works together, and each of the rides are in slightly different configurations, and so I get kind of lights and darks and kind of plays really nice together. So this one's really, really good. I myself would not make it as jet black contrasty, but it does work for this particular image. So we'll give it a 9.
This way.
I like this one for your rule of odds with the 3 windows, and then we have this large space in the middle. I think if we had just had the 3 windows right next to each other, it would be kind of a bland image. So really clever seeing this arrangement with the 2 and the 1, and then we have this diagonal crack line from a foundation crack or something going up through the wall. So that really added a nice element. And then the colors all marry very well together. What's reflected in the windows versus the brick colors, even the crack, the gray of the crack going through the stone kind of mimics the grays we're seeing in the window reflection. So really nicely seen on this one. It's a graphic image, but there's a lot really to look at because of those reflections are so interesting. So I give this one a 10.
This is the tail end or fresh RMO.
So it's earlier I commented on seeing the backs of the birds was not really appealing, but seeing the back hindquarters of a bunch of cows is more humorous, I guess. The only thing that kind of couldn't figure out is in the middle cow, there's some sort of, I guess it's a cord or something like that dangling down. I was like, is the cow peeing or something? It confused me. I would clone that out because it doesn't need to be there and just gets me weirded out, I guess. But very funny here. And I like how each of the cows is a slightly different shade of gray from the dark one on the right and the light one in the middle. So that's kind of funny. Kind of a funny scene to have caught. Nice black and white capture. But we'll give this a 9.
On the upper floor.
A nice arrangement here. I like these yellow chairs. It's a good seeing those popping out. The image to me is a little flat, and it's because the chairs are in shadow and just from with the angle light you had. So this is one where I think you need to, in post-processing, just amp it up a little bit with your saturation and maybe just your brightness a little bit just really make it punch a bit more. But overall, it's a nice image. I give it 8.
Transition.
Neat still life here. I like this idea. The title is what threw me a little bit because we say transition, and clearly we have the glass goblet in the middle, just getting the drops of the red food coloring or whatever in there, and then we have the pure something already uniform red in the back. So why not use the one in the front to be somewhere halfway between initial drops of red and full red? I don't think going for pure clear was the right balance, because we have like no red, 20% red, and then 100% red. So I'd rather have the more of a even distribution between them. So when you do this kind of still life, kind of think through your whole process. But I love the lighting on the glass, creating some really nice colors on the clear glass here, and then a little bit of reflection. So that part's really well done with your lighting. I would just think about your colors and how much color in each glass, just make it a little different. But overall, from a technical aspect, very high. So we'll give it a 9.
Coiled and ready to go.
Good job seeing this one with the three coils of rope. I think that's clever. I like how it's just plain background and just the ripples in the water. I think that balances out a little bit. It's a little flat for me because it is those ropes are in shadow. So this is a case where maybe find a different group of ropes on the other side of the boat that maybe have a little bit more light on them. We are getting some nice backlight on them, creating a little bit of rim light. But I think in this case, they needed more light on them. I'm also double checking the computer here so I remember what it looked like. So I think this one just needs to be a little bit brighter for me to just really appreciate it more. So we'll give it 8.
And our final image of the evening, this is for critique only. It's from a new member. And it's called Field of Brooms. But still, do the same evaluation and scoring that you would at normal.
Yeah, so nice image overall, really good, lighting on this really makes that hay there on the right really pop out with a nice rich golden color. For rule of odds, yes, we have 3 hay bales, so technically there's 3. I think this is a case where I would have switched from a wide angle lens or standard lens that you probably used to a zoom lens, and I would step back. Using that telephoto lens will allow everything to compress a little bit more. And then the 2 hay bales, especially one in the way distance back there, it would pull them in tighter. And then I could see a little bit more unity between the 3 bales. Because right now that one in the foreground is just so big and right in my face, and it's really pretty looking. The other 2 are kind of like black blobs in the distance, like they were an afterthought. So I think a telephoto lens and stepping back would compress that and make them a little bit more the sizing of them might be a little bit more pleasing. You do have a couple sensor spots, so watch for that. Above the hay bale on the left, there's kind of a dark spot in the sky. So just go, could be your lens, but most likely your sensor. So easy to clean up in post-processing, but otherwise go clean your sensor or have someone clean it for you. There appears to be another one when I saw on my computer screen somewhere right above the hay bale in the back. So just watch for those things, because in this case, they really jump out when against a plain sky. But good job with the composition overall, and great time of day with the lighting, because that really just adds to the golden richness of the hay bale there.
Okay, and if you would score this, what would you give this?
I would give it. I'd give it a 9 overall. I think it could. I mentioned a few little improvements. But overall, it's a nice classic image, and just the lighting on it is really, really good. So catching it at the right time of day, I think, makes all the difference.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for all those comments. All right, we just have a couple images, couple 9s and 10s to talk to people about. Air traffic control. Yep.
Yeah, this is Steve Wilton.
Yes, Steve. Sorry.
This was at the Boulder County Fair in Longmont, my second Longmont entry tonight. I spent a full afternoon and an evening there. And what I tried to capture was not just show one ride, but show it in juxtaposition against other rides, which is what this is about. Thanks for your comments, Greg.
All right, and this way is from Laura Blake. Laura is on Zoom and she just popped into the chat here. Thank you for the kind words. I saw these windows on a building in downtown Denver. The arrow reflected in all the windows caught my attention immediately. Well, congratulations, Laura, on noticing that and on the great score. The tail end or fresh RMO is from Ben Hernandez.
I've been trying to work on my talents. What can I say? Thank you. I appreciate you.
Transition here is from Brian Donovan.
Yeah, I just took this at home, playing with some glasses of water and some food coloring. That's about it. Thanks for the comments.
Thank you, Brian. And our last image, Field of Rooms. Jim, do you want to talk to us about this image a little bit?
Yeah, thank you very much for the kind words. It's a little intimidating going before all of you for the first time. An excellent criticism, and it makes me concerned that I maybe have to run over to the camera shop and get my sensor looked at. But thank you very much. Thank you.
You might try just getting an air blower, like a rocket, and you can take your lens off and just blow some air in there with the sensor exposed. That may get rid of the spot, but that one looks pretty big. You may have to get a sensor wipe. It's easy to do yourself. It's intimidating the first time you do it because you think you're going to ruin your camera. But otherwise, you're paying someone $70 or something like that to do it for you. Anyway, but yeah, try the air blower first and see if that clears it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jim, can I ask what kind of camera do you have?
That's Olympus OM5.
Okay, so that is a mirrorless camera, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, the air blower thing, because on a mirrorless camera, the sensor is exposed when you have a lens off of it. So that obviously it's going to attract more dust and dirt potentially. You have to be careful when you're changing lenses and such. But yeah, potentially a little burst of air could potentially get rid of it. But Photoshop can get rid of it too, in Lightroom and pretty much any photo editing software. But congratulations on your first image, and hopefully, when you submit images for review for the competition committee, we can get you placed in an appropriate group and get you regularly putting stuff in.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Very good. All right. Well, that is the end of the evening for us. That is all the images we have. Greg, do you have any final comments on everything that we've seen this evening, or anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I think great assortment of images. I think it, you really demonstrated that you can take photos of all kinds of things and all kinds of conditions, and you can come away with really creative things. You just got to be on the lookout, right? Whether you're walking downtown Denver or on safari in Botswana, you don't always have to go to exotic places to take interesting photos. So, and I appreciate the two of you went to Longmont, so you all should come up to Longmont, so I don't have to drive all the way down here.
We appreciate you coming down.
Yeah.
Yes,
I want to
absolutely.
come once in person at least, but yeah, it is a little bit of a haul.
Well, thank you very much, sir, and thank you for the wonderful critiques that you gave on the images this evening. The only club housekeeping I have is just mentioning in May, our program on May 8th, it's going to be Brad Polt Jones giving a presentation about using AI tools in Photoshop. And then our competition next month is on long exposure. So that'll be, I'm pretty sure that I made it, exposures have to be a half second or longer.
May I jump in?
Absolutely, Ben.
Thank you. Sorry. So I did like what Cliff said, what Cliff did last time, like best of show. I would want to nominate the chilies for my eye. That was the best image. And also, I would certainly like to thank you all and the comments. And I'm gonna shut up. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you, Ben, and we appreciate the wonderful images that you keep sharing with us too.
I just wanted to express thanks for the criticism of the grab a wrench. When I threw the PVC pipe on there to add interest, I said, well, those are the wrong wrenches, but no one could possibly know about that except me. But I should remember that photographers sometimes do other things besides photography.
If you own a home, you hopefully you either have a big bank account to pay other people to fix your stuff, or you learn how to fix your stuff yourself. And you collect a lot of tools.
Exactly. Well, does anybody else have any further commentary or questions?
We're good.
No.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, yes, thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you very much, Greg, for being a judge for us once again. We appreciate you making the trip down here to be in person. Thank you to Kyle for handling the duties at Lone Tree this evening. We appreciate your efforts there, sir.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, y'all have for the Zoomers, have a nice walk to the next room. And for the folks at Lone Tree, good drive home.
Thanks,
Good
Carl.
night, everybody, and thank you again.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Mark.